So afternoon, everybody. Yeah, as just mentioned, so I'm Tom White. I'm the Ecosystem Director for Maritime and Ports at the Connected Places Catapult. And yeah, the last 2 days have been hearing a lot of really inspirational examples of activity all across our sector. And obviously thanks to the SMI and all the sponsors for putting on a fantastic event, a very nice dinner and lots of wine last night, although a little more tired today than I would have liked. But apart from that, so I'm here today to talk about innovation in maritime, but who really is Connected Places to talk? So the Connected Places Catapult, if you've not encountered us before, we are the UK's innovation accelerator for cities, transport and place leadership, where really our core objectives are around better connecting the market, speeding up the adoption of innovative technology, and as well accelerating the commercialization of that technology in the market. And we really do that across quite a number of areas. So maritime and ports, obviously, air mobility and airports, rail and stations, integrated infrastructure, place leadership, homes and housing, and really how we incubate ecosystems as well. And it's actually quite a nice position to be in as Connected Places, is actually seeing where lessons in one market sector or one context can actually help another, and that's a big part of the job that we should be doing. And really we focus our effort around 3 key areas. So climate action in terms of how we reduce emissions, but building future resilience in future systems. As well, people's experience, and that can be individual people or organizations, and actually making sure we design future needs, future solutions for the customer in the context of an ever-changing environment. And as well, connected intelligence and how we make better use of the data and insight around us to make better decisions. And we're quite new in the maritime sector, really. We started our journey when I joined the Catapult about 2.5 years ago. We were a founding partner at the Port of Tyne 2050 Innovation Hub just down the road. And I think you can see from just focusing on the top timeline, really focusing to actually understanding what the technology, what the genuine business challenges are in the sector, and then working with ports and stakeholders around the UK to actually turn those visions and blueprints and roadmaps and all those other lovely things into actually clear actions of what we want to do, whether that's been in predictive maintenance, climate modeling, sort of renewable microgrids for shore power, how we properly leverage the free ports initiatives for regions around the UK, the role of ports as multimodal transport hubs to be the future energy hubs, as well the impact that the maritime sector has on the cities, communities around it, and how we optimize flows of traffic into and out of ports. And a big part of what we've been doing as well is helping regions understand that context of actually, by having the maritime sector on their doorstep and all those SMEs and researchers and innovators, what it actually means for them as a region, for which we've been working with the Solent, and we've just started some work on the Mersey, and we have a few clean maritime demos that I'll mention in a moment. And just in terms of the work we've got going on in the other sectors that we try and bring into the activity we do. So for example, we know that a lot of the challenges in a lot of the big companies out in the world is breaking out of this cycle of when something gets old, we just buy the new version of the old thing we've already got, and actually innovating people's procurement processes to be able to access innovation in the market. As well, we've worked with regions around the UK on 5G and accelerating solutions into HS2, for example. And more fundamentally, how regions work as hubs of innovations. And we've got some work going on at the minute, which should finish in the next few weeks, around connected autonomous logistics and end-to-end supply chain resilience as well. And all of that really, I think from some of the activities we've talked about, is how we build this vision of what really our ports of the future can be as a system of systems innovation hub, and actually being that place where a lot of the actual stakeholders in some of these huge transition challenges that we talk about that require so much effort as the intersection where all these different stakeholders come together, and we can actually develop out those whole systems concepts, whether that's in synchromodality, future energy systems, or how we get more predictive about sort of our energy use and flow of goods. So why do we want to do all of this anyway? And I know I've heard all of these different things at different points during the day, just in terms of our motivations as the Catapult. We're really driven by actually being able to deliver that regional economic growth by supporting the maritime sector in the regions where that makes sense. That's why we want to see those SMEs grow, and we want to strengthen the UK's ability to actually commercialise all the amazing research that we do on our island. As well, getting these solutions into the market can help us accelerate key initiatives like our net zero transition. We can drive cross-sector opportunities as well. And through a lot of the other sectors we work in, many of them have never considered the maritime market as a potential place for them to sell solutions to. And when we consider that you've got similar challenges, for example, in advanced manufacturing, in aerospace, in heavy goods vehicles, as we've heard over the last few days, there's a lot of opportunities for that. As well, we can realise greater benefits such as supply chain efficiency and resiliency, and as John was saying earlier as well, around growing our market presence and getting more UK tech out in the world. But that's not always easy, and whilst it's by no means unique to our sector, we know that sometimes we have a lack of confidence in new solutions, whether that's to do with decarbonisation or digitalisation. As well, we know we have to live with our assets for a long time, which has an impact on our risk appetite to adopt new things. And there's been a bit of an issue over the last few decades in terms of our access to funding that supports innovation, and we've seen some really positive changes in that in the last couple of years with Mari UK and with the Clean Maritime Demonstrator. As well, I know we've mentioned it a few times as well, is that we haven't always been the best at collaborating either between ourselves or with other sectors in large-scale challenges to share that risk and accelerate our learning. And not only do we sometimes not know where we're going, but even when we do, it's that clarity of the route of how we get there. And like I say as well, in the maritime sector, particularly with the work we do in other sectors, is we haven't always been outwardly visible about what our genuine challenges are and what might exist in other markets as solutions. And we know that sometimes things just get lost in translation, whether that's between academics and industry or whether that's between innovators and investors. So I particularly hate this because I add a new circle every time I do it, but this is really part of the reason why that's complicated. And we know that, like many sectors across themes or regions, when we're building out the maritime innovation ecosystem, there's a lot of stakeholders and interactions in there, and our stakeholders are diverse, our understanding or perception of things is inhomogeneous, and our relationships can be quite complex. But generally, when you view how we build ecosystems through the lens of how this picture works effectively to achieve a greater purpose or mission that is bigger than our own individual needs, then you can generally put us in different compartments of how we support that ecosystem, whether we're an enabler, whether we're a gatekeeper, or whether we're a funder or a solution developer or a customer. And actually viewing it in that way has helped us shape a lot of the work that we're doing and how we can show through demonstration how this ecosystem can work effectively, whether we're working towards greater regional economic growth, the net zero transition, resilient supply chains, or stimulating regional FDI. And I'll just cover now a few projects that we're doing where we're trying to address those challenges. Heard earlier from the Port of Tyne, one of the projects we're doing there with obviously the Port, Newcastle University, Siemens and the North East LEP, around really how we build on Port's unique geographic position to potentially access lots of different types of renewable energy. But as well, we've got lots of different customers on site. And can we use a greater insight generated through data on the Port to actually understand those variable energy inputs and what we're going to be creating as a demand for energy on site in a more predictive way. So we're actually deploying again, as we heard earlier, that we're deploying the trial of this platform and thinking about in the feasibility studies and next stages what we would use it for, who would use those renewable energy sources and why, and we're thinking beyond the maritime sector in that as well. As well, you'll hear in a few moments from Marlene and Aberdeen as well that we're working with the Aberdeen Green Port Blueprint, which is trying to take that place-centered approach to, well, great, but what does a green port actually mean for the community and the region around it, as well as the specific things that a port needs to do to be green itself. So in here there's a detailed design study for a shore power installation, but also a collection of industry-driven use cases of how a port can help the region go green around it, and that's going to be made available after the project. As well as that, we're doing a project down in Portsmouth called Shape UK with quite a few partners. Portsmouth International Port, University of Portsmouth, Lloyd's Register, NGAS, Cox, University of Brighton, Barter for Things, Know Now and IOTICS. And what we're doing here is deploying a modular hydrogen electrolyzer on site at the port. We're retrofitting a small vessel to run partially on hydrogen as a fuel, but as well, we're trying to build out this concept of a port as a future energy hub. And can we develop a more predictive model at the center of this that looks at the customers who are going to be visiting the port, how much fuel am I going to be demanding versus where am I going to get that energy from? Again, this will be delivering a larger scale demonstrator program proposal for next year. The last CMDC to mention as well is a little bit further down the way, vertically integrated cloud-based ports that we're doing with PD Ports, Teesside University and GE. Looking at how we build that smart port energy system that can help us optimize our energy use across the port and provide a more predictive capability in terms of energy use, but also maintenance and resiliency of that system. And there's a lot of technical studies going on at Teesside University, and GE are really building out the plan for how we're going to deploy this year. As well as that, we're doing some work with actually, and I think over past years there's been a bit of a challenge with some regions of actually how they perceive their connectivity with the waterways around them, which in a lot of cases are really the reasons these places exist in the first place. So we're doing some work with Mersey Maritime and Royal Haskoning in how we actually put maritime innovation in the context of end-to-end journeys to help build demand for future initiatives that make better use of the waterways, whether that's in people who live in the region, people who visit the region, or how we move goods around. And as I mentioned, the Solent Maritime Innovation Gateway as well, and sometimes the challenge is you have so much activity in a region, it's actually putting that into the market context of why we're doing these things, and actually how do we help facilitate collaboration across different stakeholders in a region, and how do we map and open up access to all the assets that we have, which are often underutilized. So this is really meant as an industry-driven initiative together with Maritime UK Solent and the Solent Maritime Enterprise Zone for how we facilitate that and help stimulate investment by helping us understand what the Solent Maritime Innovation ecosystem is about and promote us both regionally in terms of other areas in the UK we might want to collaborate with, but also what we might do globally. And can't really talk about ports without mentioning free ports. So obviously free ports have a potential to have quite significant impacts for the regions in which they operate, but fundamentally the free ports initiatives, through their tax and tariff incentives, what that gives business is really a confidence in terms of their future financial liabilities over the next few years. But really, as a business, why you want to set up in an area is your access to that ecosystem in terms of the skills, the infrastructure, the local assets, the potential customers and collaborators. And what we're trying to do through the Freeport Playbook and working with Freeport partners across the UK is actually help them understand, articulate what is that regional USP, because we have to not go down this road of one Freeport in the UK competing with another 7 or 8 Freeports in the UK. There are 4,800 Freeports, special economic zones around the world, and we need to be thinking about how we compete as UK PLC based on regional USPs and what we do, which again is a big theme in our hubs of innovation work and how we point that particularly at maritime communities. And just the very last thing to mention Obviously, one of the challenges we've talked about over the last couple of days, and certainly something we've recognised over the last 2 years, is actually the support available for SMEs and innovators in terms of accelerator programs, accessing finance, and things like that. So this year, we're actually launching what we're calling our Maritime Innovation Flagship, which will all be designed around how we will be launching an accelerator program that will help SMEs grow in the market space. We'll be working together with our investor partners that we work with in other sectors as well to help increase investment not only into the SMEs but also these sorts of programs that can deliver a good return on it. As well, promoting and making the case for the innovation programs, building commercial confidence in the future technologies. We'll be engaging with regions across the UK, and because the very last thing that we as a Catapult should be doing should be adding more complexity or more confusion into what is an already complicated space, and working with other initiatives, and working towards the end of the year stimulating live demonstrators and trials. And there'll be some exciting partnerships to announce in the next few weeks about this, but for now, do get in touch if you want to find out more about what we're doing here, or if you're interested in working together with us on it. And that's me. Thank you very much.